My name is Omugabe Ornstein, and this is St.Joseph Senior Secondary School, Naggalama. We have come for the High School Crossfire Competition 2025. With me are Abasa Accolade, Abitimo Patience, and Mandela Prosper.
We are affirming a resolution that states, this House believes that visa-free travel for tourism undermines national security and economic sovereignty. Against London College, we hope for the best.
Hello Crossfire, my name is Shivir Munira from London College of St. Lawrence. On my right is Ori Daniel, then Aena Moses and Irisuviza Jazil.
So today's resolution states that this House believes that visa-free travel for tourism undermines national security and economic sovereignty. We are the negators for the day and we are versing St. Joseph Naggalama. Expect a debate that is quality and has enough research. Enjoy.
House rules. Each speaker has 5 minutes. The first and last minutes are protected. The judge will ring a bell to signal the protected time. The bell will ring continuously after 5 minutes.
Resolved. This House believes that visa-free travels for tourism undermines national security and economic sovereignty. Abasa Accolade team affirmative. So, according to passportindex.com, a visa is an official document, usually a sticker or a stamp, inside your passport that allows you to move into another country for a specific duration and purpose. Then, visa-free travel for tourism is where a tourist does not need to present a visa to enter another country for adventure, medical, business, and religious purposes, still according to passportindex.com. National security refers to the protection and preservation of a country's sovereignty and interests and citizens from both internal and external threats. Economic sovereignty is a country's capacity to control its own economy, including its resources, trade and financial system, without external interference. According to the Advanced Oxford Learners Dictionary, tourism is the business activity connected with providing accommodation, services, and entertainment for people who are visiting a place for pleasure. Then, according to the Advanced Oxford Learners Dictionary, to undermine is to make something gradually weaker or less effective. We as Team Affirmative, the East African Community Security Council, this body contains ministers of internal affairs whom we'll be working hand in hand with. Our parameter is the East African community with reference to the world. Then, as you apply for a visa, you need to present the following: a valid passport, a visa application form, which is used by the host country to collect your personal information, travel details, and purpose of visit for assessment. Then passport photos, which are needed for identification on the visa document, proof of purpose for visit, financial proof to show that you are financially stable to support yourself into the country where you're going, that you are not going to cause an economic burden to the host country. Then you need travel itinerary, travel insurance, visa fee, background checks to make sure that you do not have any criminal background and you have no health issues that you're going to pass over to the host country. Then you need to present vaccination forms, for example, the yellow fever card, to prevent the spread of contagious diseases. In simple terms, this House believes that traveling without a visa for tourism causes a threat to national security and economic sovereignty. How does this come about? Visa-free travel for tourism deprives visa management authorities critical information, for example, the criminal background, the health status, and the economic potential. August House, we are bringing in people whom we do not know about their economic background. These are the people who will come in and strain the infrastructure, they will strain our economy. These are the people who will come and take the jobs of the locals. These are the people who will come and spread diseases. These are the people who will come and end up being terrorists. So we check for the economic potential just to make sure that you are not going to ban
Are you aware that the biggest percentage of East African investors?
To prove, we ask for the criminal background to prove that you are not going to cause a financial burden. I rest my case.
Opposition, the team at which I am, is arguing an illogical statement. On thoughts I pondered, maybe we are arguing that an unpadlocked door guarantees security. But I come here to tell you that we are not arguing that. We are not saying that an unpadlocked door guarantees security. We are saying that the padlock you're using is a complicated sham, that even with its complication, you're ever robbed. Too many facilities, very many complicated possessions, yet the practical reflection still the fact that you're being robbed. We are not saying that they're padlocked and padlocked door guarantees security. Instead, we are saying that the padlock you're using is obsolete. August House, this was not about padlocks. The first speaker came and talked about visa in a way that I feel rather misleading, because she talked about guarantee and almost a type of certitude. It's a certitude that we come against. The certitude comes on references even to yellow fever as if she's trying to connect visa to health. And that is where I'm going to start my rebuttal at, because you're seeing a separation of facilities. I'm going to expound the parameter, feeling as if the parameter they gave us was a bit limiting. On what stand? We're talking about cases like 911. If she comes here and guarantees security, then, if truly it is, then we are shedding light to president cases where the 911 cases, most of the individuals, or rather all of the individuals there, had valid visas. We're talking about European attacks, which were not even, we're not talking about tourism in this aspect. But if I'm to borrow from her ideas, as she talks about yellow fever, I'm trying to point out and relate that her ideas towards the connection between visa and health are truly unrelated. We are seeing that regardless, even towards security, we are seeing that the separation is distinct, that even without a visa, these health precautions are taken. We are seeing that yellow fever is one that yellow fever card is a necessity to travel to Kenya. And on the same basis, we do not need visas to travel to Kenya. So the yellow fever is actually almost a contradiction or a crevice to the argument, because at the end of the day, we are seeing that she's saying that maybe it fortifies, but this fortification is not true. We're going to talk about the insufficiency of this particular facet that in itself demands fortification. What type of fortification? We're seeing that in itself, visa has not been sufficient, and for its insufficient, we're seeing bodies like Interpol, which come about to provide the necessary fortification. Can't you see that there's a problem that has been wanting a solution, crying out for solution, but are the proposition team really willing to hear? We're also talking about the unnecessary bureaucracy, a lot of processions which are not important. This unnecessary bureaucracy will be maybe the padlock in this sort of case. Very many complicated ways of handling, of opening the door, but at the end of the day, we are seeing the individual is promised not security, but promised robbery. If not all day, maybe in a few hours, this individual is certain to a particular type of facet which is not security. I argue that. I argue truly that this individual, the first speaker, came and stood with so much certitude on her argument, the certitude that a visa-bound situation would give us a more secure ground, which I come and tell you that it is not true. I've pointed that out in very many, we have expounded that in very many examples, which my other speakers will come and talk about. But I would rather come and, to complete my statement, I would emphasize on the fact that we, as team opposition, stand on a winning ground, and I feel that is right. Thank you.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute. This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
What does the negative side, offer as an alternative to visa requiring tourism. When the first speaker tells us visa and health are two different aspects of facilities, we come and remind you, dear house, that visas have a requirement of the health background of a person so that we do not have to risk national security, which is going to be endangered by people coming in with unknown of health risks that are going to cause pandemics and disease surges in the country, which is going to bring about us having to search for loans, and having to search for loans, we are going to have to be dependent on another country. Well, visa-free tourism denies visa management authorities of critical information such as the health status, criminal records, identification documents, and economic potential. The absence of the health status puts a risk at opening the gates of the health threats to the host country. Criminal records, according to the United States Department of State, past criminal records are among the main reasons as to why people are denied visas in the USA today, because it is well noted that criminals that have been arrested can come back and rather hardened criminals that are very capable of committing crime if they are brought into a country. Well, the lack of identification documents is going to make it very difficult for us to track these individuals when they decide to stay in the country. The fact that it is easy for the tourists to enter the country and they are not going to be tracked, and the fact that we have very little information about them, we are not sure they are tourists. And in a visa, we are very well assured that these people are coming with a very well defined travel itinerary that is going to help us manage these things. Visa requiring processes are less prone to forgery, unlike any other, although they are not even offering us an alternative to visa requiring processes. But if we have a visa, it is of very high risk, and no sane person would come to a visa application office and decide to present forged documents, unlike any other alternative, which these people have failed to provide. Dear August House, if they come and tell us that visa-free traveling tourism has a very negative impact on national security and economic sovereignty, they should tell us what then must we do. If you do not tell us an alternative, we do not have to listen to what you're saying. Visa-free travels for tourism lead to drawbacks, economic drawbacks in the initial revenue, beyond the initial revenue loss, because we are going to find that in Uganda a visa costs $50. That means we are going to lose a direct revenue collected per head of a tourist. Ladies and gentlemen, when we have these visa-free, we notice that yes, the number of tourists might increase, and when it does increase, we are going to have tourist influx in this country. When we have tourist influx in this country, we are going to have problems with the poor conditions, having the government to manage to match the standards of these tourists, raising the affordability to local people. So that means we are starving ourselves of the food that we are supposed to be feeding our people, and we're giving them to the neighbors. Visa-free tourism does not only bring all those problems, but it has I beg to rest my case.
All right, the August House. Good afternoon. My name is Ori Daniel, second speaker, negators. So today we are asked with a motion that this House believes that visa-free travel for tourism undermines national security and economic sovereignty. I would like to ask the affirmative team to pay attention to the definition they gave us. We are talking about tourists, not people who are pretending to be tourists. They came and defined for us a tourist as a person who comes for leisure, maybe purposes like learning and business at the end of it. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that when you come at the airport and you claim that you are to be a tourist, there's some documents definitely you will have to provide, ladies and gentlemen, which may not be necessarily a visa. So the main points they come and tell us that visa-free travel denies the authorities critical information, for example, like health. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give a case study whereby Uganda, you're going to Kenya. With or without a visa, you need to provide your yellow fever card. right? During the COVID-19 time, countries were restricting entries of people who are COVID-19 positive with or without visas. So at the end of the day, when they're telling us that actually visa-free travel denies critical information like health, they're lying to us because with or without the visa, things like health, they are still checked. They come and they tell us that visa-free travel for tourism at the end of the day is going to bring us economic drawbacks. They come and say that the country's resources are going to be utilized by foreigners instead of our citizens. One thing, they come and even they give the parameter as the East African community, an area whereby we have a significant percentage whereby the investment is foreign. Ladies and gentlemen, you can look at it yourselves. The hotels we have in Uganda, many of them are from foreign investment, right? Not from original investment we have here in Uganda. The economic activities we have, the plazas. Look at, for example, Mr. Sudhir, he has invested in Uganda, he has given us the hotels and everything, foreign investment. So at the end of the day, when you come and lie to us that actually visa-free travel for tourism is going to cause us economic drawbacks, please rest, it's going to cause us economic drawbacks, yet actually we have a significant investment from the foreigners, you're actually lying to us. Please rest. Ladies and gentlemen, they come and they tell us that they're opening the country to health risks. But like I've actually told you, that with or without a visa, we're still checking these people's health. Now let me go further and I tell you something. My first speaker came and told you that. Let us take an example of the 9/11 case. Now the 9/11 case whereby we had two terrorists of the Al-Qaeda group, whereby they flew planes into the two big buildings of the Major World Trade Center in New York. Ladies and gentlemen, these terrorists fully had visas. What you're trying to tell you that if you come and tell us that actually you're promoting national security only by making it visa bound, that is false. Look at Uganda itself. Please rest. Look at Uganda itself. A country vast with porous borders. So at the end of the day, however strict we are on these visas, ladies and gentlemen, and yet our borders are still porous, when you come and tell us that it is visa-free travel undermining national security, you are lying to us. If you make the rules strong on the visa and you still leave your borders porous, that does not count. Ladies and gentlemen, it is even a dishonest argument to just tie national security and economic sovereignty on visa-free travel for tourism. Let us move further on. If you make the visa checking very strict and at the end of the day, the tourist luggage, you even don't check it and everything, it is still false. Because fine, a tourist might come with a visa and everything, but even with their luggage, they have other things that you may not need in the country. So when you just say that visa-free travel for tourism is undermine the national security, you are lying to us. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, we come and tell them, they came and mentioned that for us, many processes involved in getting the visa, the valid passport, the travel details, the purpose, the proof or purpose of visit, the travel itinerary, and many so other things. Even saying them is already hectic. Now, imagine doing those very same things. So we said this is just unnecessary bureaucracy, whereby it is even going to discourage the tourists from entering the country. Mind you, a tourist wants to come and enter the country to invest or to tour around and put Uganda on the map of the globe. But because they need all this, it's going to even deny them the chance to enter the country, and at the end of the day, we're actually losing this economic sovereignty you're fighting for. Thank you very much.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute. This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
Resolved. A bit more patience. Team affirmative. He comes and he says that our first speaker is connecting. Their first speaker comes and says that our first speaker is connecting the visa to health. But if we do not check these people's health, how are we sure that these people do not have diseases and they're going to give them to our people? They can come with Ebola, they can come with COVID-19, and that is already undermining our national security. What if they give such diseases to our MPs, to people who actually are big in the country, and then that is undermining our national security? They are not considering our national security. They do not come here and they give us the requirements that they are going to give the people who are actually coming visa-free. They just tell us that these people who are coming with visas, they also go through the same requirements. But no, these people do not actually show us that these people are going to get return tickets. But when you have a visa, you are going to have a return ticket. And when you do not go back on the day that you said you're going to go back, they track you down. How are these people going to come and track the people who come and who lie to us that they are coming as tourists, yet they are actually coming to do illegal businesses in Uganda? And this has already been seen in Uganda, where the permanent secretary for the Ministry of Finance asked the local leaders to unlicense all the people who are doing foreign businesses in our country, Uganda. This was in the Daily Monitor of 19th March 2024. This is already a clear sign that some people come to do illegal businesses.
Rest, please. This is already an example that people come to do illegal businesses when they are gauging as tourists, yet they are actually coming to do illegal businesses in Uganda. Are we really going to allow that? If they are competing with our people, if they are competing with the locals and they are selling their goods at a cheaper price, and then they're actually getting more money than our people, they're going to become jobless, and that is already undermining our economic sovereignty, undermining our economic independence. And then he comes and he says that bodies have been put in place to actually check these people who are coming visa-free, but he does not give us a source of information of this. He does not actually, please rest, he does not give us a source of information for this. He does not give us any bodies that are actually doing this. He just comes and he tells us that there are bodies working on this. Which bodies are those? Please give us the bodies so that we can know what you are talking about here. Then the first speaker comes and says that we are not talking about tourism. Yet the motion states clearly that this house believes that visa-free travel for tourism. It is clearly stated in the motion. So I do not know what they are saying when they're saying that we are not talking about tourism. Please. Yes?
Is someone who comes and sets up businesses still considered a tourist?
Well, if they have come as tourists, yes, they are considered as tourists. And when their time here is done and the government actually does not know that they are in the country, they become illegal people in the country, not tourists, but they had come as tourists. So that means they come as tourists and then they become a threat to our national security and economic independence. Then they come and they say that when their people are coming in the country, their things are not checked. But I do not think they know the processing of a visa. Your things are checked from the airport. The luggage you come with are checked from the airport. There are technologies that are made to check these things from the airport. So if you come and you tell us that they actually do not check the luggage that these people carry to bring to our country, I do not know what you are talking about. I do not know what you are trying to say. These people are checked thoroughly as they are entering our country. They do not just say like, okay, since you have a visa, you can enter. No, they are checked from the airport. So they should not come and lie to the house. They should not come and lie to us that these people are not checked. That is a very, 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 very big lie. And then they say that the people who are coming, like they are pretending to be tourists. That means the country knows them as tourists and not as people pretending to be tourists. I rest my case.
Panel resolved. Well, I would like to first rebut the points that have been lastly mentioned by the current speaker from the farmer side. She comes and asks that, actually, she comes and says that these people are checked after them getting the visa. Then I have a question for these farmers. Do they check them before the visas or after the visas? Well, we as the negators, as the second speaker said, he came here and said that these people are checked with or without the visas. Where we have seen that, for example, if you're moving from Kenya to Uganda, you people, we have seen that these people are not asked for visas, but they are still checked. Those are security measures, yes. Whether you have the visa or not, these people are still checked. That's the major point. Then they were asking for alternatives. Well, this is not a policy debate, but for clarity, I'm going to provide you an alternative. And the alternative was mentioned by your third speaker, whereby these people are going to be thoroughly checked by the border patrol units. Well, they also came and talked about some needs of their first current speaker came and spoke about the needs of these visas or the requirements. They talked about duration and others, but they forgot one thing, that they forgot illogical demands, whereby actually these tourists, some of these tourists denied, some of these tourists are asked to bring invitation letters from the people who are living in the country, which is illogical, that some tourists may not have these people. Well, let me weigh in. Well, they talked about the criminal background, but you people, let me put this clearly. When these people, if a criminal knows that I'm a known criminal, for example, let's give an example of Konyi. Konyi is not going to use visa. He knows that he is already known criminal, so he's going to use other ways, which are porous means. Well, another, they came and talk about tourists taking jobs for people. But to people, the reality is, let's take this as the reality. These tourists, when these tourists come, they actually support local businesses, and that was said by our first negator, whereby he came and clearly showed to you that actually these jobs, they create jobs for people whereby the local art and craft industry is being supported by these tourists who come into the country. Then they talked about financial burden, you people. The tourist industry has done a lot of things, whether indirectly or directly, where they are going to say, where they came and talked about the financial burden brought by the tourist job competition. But you people, we have said that these tourists actually create jobs for very many people, which include the people who work at the hotels, the tourist guides, and so many others. How is that a financial burden? These tourists are the people who are going to pay a lot of taxes. You're going to say that as many tourists come in, they are going to bring more taxes, which is going to increase the country's GDP. Rejected. Well, they talked about risk of national security in regards to healthy people. The second negator came and told them clearly that actually, with or without rejected, with or without these needed qualifications, COVID-19 continued to be spread across whether they had the visas or not. COVID-19 came on. And that's why we take the debate, actually. They also came and talked about criminal records, but actually, people, we have done a lot of research, and we have known of most recent terrorist attacks in Uganda done by a certain group, labor group in Congo. These terrorist attacks, actually, these people don't come as tourists, but they rather use porous borders. Well, one of but then these people come here and they begin claiming that tourists are the ones carrying out this work. How many times have you seen European tourists being arrested for tourist attacks? But we see neighbors who are Congolese who come in with weapons and whatever. And actually, they talked about weapons. When you're going to get that tourist visa, they don't ask you what kind of luggage are you going to take, but they ask you for personal qualification. Now, it's up to you. You can get the visa, and after you can import the drugs, the weapons, and so on. So that one does not address that issue. And that's what our precarious speaker said. We also talked about tourist influx, whereby there are high numbers. But here, as the tourist number increases, then that means that there will be more profits gained by the country. Thank you. I rest my case.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute. This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
Resolved. This House believes that visa-free travel for tourism undermines national security and economic sovereignty. I'm the fourth speaker from the opposition side. So, to start with, do many countries successfully implement visa-free travel without compromising national security?
No, they do not.
Thank you. Can advanced technology and data sharing enhance security screening for visa-free travelers?
Yes, they can.
Thank you. Giving me the answers that I want. Can the economic benefits of visa-free travel outweigh potential security concerns?
Pardon?
Can the economic benefits of visa-free travel outweigh potential security concerns?
No, they can't.
Oh my God, so disappointing. Are there examples of countries that have strengthened economic cooperation and sovereignty through visa-free travel agreements?
No.
Thank you. Can visa-free travel agreements include provisions that protect a country's economic sovereignty?
Pardon?
Can visa-free travel agreements include provisions that protect a country's economic sovereignty?
Yes.
Exactly. Can effective border control measures mitigate the security risks associated with visa-free travel?
No.
Can you prove that the tourists who come into the country are due to the visa-free travel for tourism?
Pardon?
Can you prove that the tourists who come into the country are due to the visa-free travel for tourism?
No, it depends.
So, to start with, I asked him that do many countries successfully implement visa-free travel without compromising national security? And he told me no, and that's the answer that I exactly want. Guys, dear judges, look at this. How do you put there visa-free travel without compromising national security? Obviously, before you put there the visa-free travel, you'll have to compromise the national security. You have to look at the security of your country before you put there the visa-free travel. So how would you tell me that this will undermine the national security without you looking at your country? And then I asked him that can advanced technology and data sharing enhance security screening for visa-free travelers? This is where we have a country that is growing up. Our countries are developing at a very high level. This is where we look at countries developing highly. So when we put there the visa-free travelers, obviously when they reach the airport, those tourists, they'll be checked very well. They'll be screened and the data will be checked very well. So there is no way you're telling me that this is undermining national security. But then we have the advanced technology, we have the data sharing, which is really enhanced. Then I also asked that, can the economic benefits of visa-free travel outweigh potential security concerns? Guys, dear judges, this is where we have the visa-free tourists who come in and they bring in more foreign exchange to the country, more than the security concerns that we are looking at. This is where we having these guys bringing in more foreign exchange. Some of them are taxed, which is what? Improving on the economic sovereignty. So I wonder how you start come and tell us that this is leading into economic sovereignty. It's undermining it. So I don't understand that. And then, can the economic benefits of visa-free travel outweigh potential security concerns? I've explained this. Then, are there examples of countries that have strengthened economic cooperation and sovereignty through visa-free travel? Yes, this is where we look at a number of countries that have strengthened their economic cooperation and sovereignty through the visa-free travel. This is where the tourists come in, they get foreign exchange, just like how I've explained on the previous point. Then I asked that, thank you.
Witness, can health incur on the national security of a country?
Yes.
Good. Said by our first speaker that visas can have health commendations. So do you think that there are health commendations needed on a visa?
I think they are supposed to be there.
Good. What other mechanisms does one need to enter a country without a visa?
They have to check the person's luggage or other things, just like what is asked when you're acquiring a passport, because of course there is no way you travel to another country without acquiring a passport. So all that, it's put on when you're acquiring everything.
Good. Would you raise national security to economic integration?
Yes.
Good. Are you aware of transborder terrorism? Should I repeat?
Yes.
Are you aware of transborder terrorism?
No.
Good. Are you of the view that 2 is better than 1?
According to my view, it's not.
So not. 1 is better?
No.
Okay. Are you aware that there is thorough pre-screening of tourists when using a visa?
Pardon?
Are you aware that there is thorough pre-screening of tourists when using a visa?
Pardon?
Are you aware that there is thorough pre-screening of tourists using a visa?
I'm not certain.
Good. Are return tickets given to visa-free travelers?
Yes.
Good. Does foreign investment promote economic investment, as your second speaker had opposed to what you had said?
I don't think that you actually heard my speaker very well.
Good. Are you of the view that with visas, there are porous borders left, as said by your second speaker?
Obviously, there are porous borders even without visas. You've seen people coming in through the porous.
Take your seat.
Thank you.
Good. I asked the witness whether there are porous borders left when there are visas. What would happen if there are no visas? When you allow visa-free policy, there would be increased entering of a country by these illegal immigrants. You are not very sure of whether smuggling will take place to these countries. You're not sure of the security of these people. First of all, I would like to inform you, you cannot check the health status of a person when you don't have a visa. They never gave us any other mechanism they talked about. It came to the fourth speaker of this side when they talked about modern technology terms which they use to help them. They asked the person if they would rather risk national security, economic integration. The person said they would rather risk it. Well, I love this debate so much that a person, first of all, the terms of national security include environmental security, economic stability, which can be improvised when there is national security. I asked the witness if he's aware of transborder terrorism. The witness said yes. Well, the person not aware of the terrorism that happens on the Kenya and Somalia border, where there is free visa policy. They never mentioned how they curb this type of, they don't mention how they curb this type of terrorism that occurs there. Then I asked the witness whether he's aware that there is pre-screening of tourists. The person said, yes, there is. But I would like to inform you that there is thorough pre-screening of tourists when there is a visa, unlike the one of visa-free policy. When I asked the person when there is two, if two is better than one, the person said she is not sure. So I would bet that someone would rather go for a double checkup on his or her health status, the financial statements, the criminal records, than rather go for one arrival basic protocol. Ask the person, does foreign investment promote economic investment? While the person say no, unlike what their second speaker has said. I'd like to rest my case here. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to appreciate both teams. Maybe one of the reasons why we really appreciate both teams is I've really seen something I've taken along without seeing in most of the debates we have had. I just want to appreciate all the speakers. That's why you really score so high for both sides. I just love the calm nature that comes from all the speakers. It's really been a while, I think, ever since I last saw such a debate where the first, like all the speakers come and, people are not in so much of a hurry. People are really calm. The way they really take it, they are able to help you to understand whatever they are talking about. The opponents, other side, are meant to understand, and even the gallery is able to understand. So appreciation to you. I thought maybe it would start in the first speeches and maybe it's lost out in the subsequent speeches, but I just want to appreciate you that it kept on, I think, till the fourth speeches. So thumbs up to you and keep it up. Going to the resolution, this was not a resolution that could require any team to give an alternative. What it just required is team affirmative to tell us how the visa-free travel undermines national security and economic sovereignty, and also now the team negative is now to tell us, so for you, what makes you think that the visa-free travel for tourism does not undermine national security and economic sovereignty? That's what it required. So it was not really demanding. At one point of time, I had team affirmative asking for an alternative this side. Also now here at one point of time, also now team negative, as if they have considered now the fact that they are meant to give an alternative. They say now, what if we do this? So at either side, so whether you would give or you wouldn't, I could not vote in a person, but it never required you. And I just request that you just be able to know which resolutions require you to give alternatives and which resolutions do not require you. Because another day you can even find a person that could even fault you for giving an alternative where you don't need to. But actually why I could not vote either side on that is because that now you didn't now spend more time talking about the alternative that is not required, and then you leave out the substantive argument that was meant to come from either side. So I appreciate you also for that. Now, what do I base on to make my judgment today is, one, I just request for both teams to improve on the content. It's not enough for us to hear argument. As you see, when people are having visas, people are actually going to be checked. That's why you see now there's an argument that comes from this, that now when does the checking come? Does the checking come after the person being given the visa, or does the checking come after the person, or when the person is applying for the visa? It is not actually right for you to actually come and consider that you see even without the visas, porous borders exist. So meaning you're trying to say that, yeah, whatever they are talking about is right, but even without the visas you're talking about, you are going to have the porous borders. Then how are you going to be able to justify to the judges that without the visas, we are now not going to have an undermine of national security and economic sovereignty? So it was not a good argument, or it was not a good alternative for team negative to come up and, okay, you did do it throughout, but most of your arguments are saying, with or without this, we are having this. With or without this, we are having this. So now for me, I would give you my vote, or I would give you my win on the issue of the porous borders. But why would they ask you a question in the fourth speech and then you concede that actually, even without the visas, the porous borders is actually in existence? So now what are you trying to say? So it now kills out the fact that you have killed now your burden of you justifying to the judges, because your burden today was meant to tell us, okay, if they are saying that we are having A, B, C, D, does it mean now without the borders we are not having that undermining? Now for if you say that with or without we are going to have the undermine, so now what is your stake as a team negative? So such arguments could not really, personally they could not settle well with me. So personally I couldn't give you on that. But the rest of it I could give up to you. That's why I give you 16 for both of you for style. Content I give both of you 27. So that's why if I give them 28, I give you 27. Making a total of 71 for affirmative and a total of 70 for negative. So according to me it is a win to team affirmative. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that very educative, very thoughtful round of debate. So my submission is going to dwell on two very, very important factors when it comes to the art of debate. We need to learn something called resolution interpretation. We also need to learn something called speaker role execution. So as per my first point, which is resolution interpretation, we are faced with a resolution that has a pain point, which is national security and economic sovereignty. So at the end of the day, we ask ourselves, what factor is going to undermine these two very important aspects? So we have team affirmative that's supposed to come up and tell us that in this case, visa-free tourism is undermining such and such aspects. Then we have team negative that comes up and tells us that no, it is not visa-free tourism that is undermining those aspects. Rather, it's a different aspect altogether. So let's dig into your submission. So we have the first affirm who comes and properly characterizes visa-free travel, comes and characterizes how a visa is acquired, comes and characterizes how you can come in place to get a visa. Then they also come and tell you what requirements are needed to that effect. So they also come up and give us a house, they come up and give us their parameter, which is well justified. Then what submission do we have from negative in that regard? Team negative comes up and states that despite the existence of those restrictions that you are willing to implement or that you are willing to put in place, we still have some leakages, we still have some inconsistencies. They come up and tell you that, actually come up and give you a very good example of the 9/11 attacks. Then what do we see from the second speakers? Second affirmative comes up and talks about an alternative. I'm going to concede with the judge who spoke before. This type of resolution didn't necessarily need an alternative, as he said, but rather it needs you to show us which factor is actually contributing majorly to the pain point and which factor is not contributing as such, right? Team negative comes up and restates the fact that despite these restrictions you want to put in place, we still have leakages. Then team negative comes up and engages you on the alternative that you asked for in this place. They come up and say that despite all this that you're talking about, we see that the issue of porous borders is a main factor that is undermining national security and economic sovereignty. They go further to explain that in very, very good ways. So they come up and tell you that when we have porous borders, inbound travel is not tracked, which is actually part of your point. So you see that they're using your arguments to show you that still your arguments are supporting them, one more or the other. It is upon that my judgment was as follows. Content, I gave team affirmative 25, I gave team negative 26. Style, I gave team affirmative 18, I gave team negative 19. Strategy, I gave team affirmative 25, team negative 26. And the marks were 68 for team affirmative, 71 for team negative.
All right, thank you debaters for such a wonderful round. And I'd like the audience to applaud you guys like you did it all. It was so good. The audience, let's clap for these debaters. Yeah, so straight to the judgment, but with a few points of advice. One is, let us endeavor to do more research for the debates. Let us prepare enough. But besides more research, let us try to exploit the strategies that we always take upon. If you set a parameter, ensure you're able to discuss and you understand that parameter fully. But besides setting the parameter, also take on the burden to understand how best you can fulfill your team burden and the motion burden. There is always a team burden, but there is always a motion burden. So you have to weigh which one is superior to the other. However, this was a good debate. Now, from your submissions, I can say, the case we had from Team Affirmative was that the extent to which we know these tourists is very important in promoting both national security and economic sovereignty. They go on to frame for us what they think national security and economic sovereignty could look like if there is visa. One, there is need for us to know the proof of financial capacity of these tourists to survive in our countries. There is need for us to understand the health status of these tourists. There is need for us to know the purpose of the visit of these tourists and when are they returning. There is need for us to know the criminal background of these tourists. These were all very important factors that we had. The negative case was also an interesting one. Nice strategy. That national security is threatened whether we have visa requiring systems or a visa-free travel system. And yet, economic sovereignty is empowered in a visa-free travel system. That was the negative case. They tell us when there is reduced bureaucracy, there are more tourists, and then there is more profit. Hence, we think that a visa-free travel system does not undermine national security, and neither does it undermine economic sovereignty. Content was so lacking on either team because this was a highly contentious debate that you could all exploit. Setting parameters of this African community, you could have discussed a lot, but you decided to discuss very little. 24 for affirmative because of the statistics they provided and so on, and the examples of bodies. They even went further to ask you for the bodies you're talking about, for the documents you're citing, and you did not know very well. So I give you 22 negative, I give affirmatives 24. Strategy. I think negatives had a better strategy. So I gave negatives 25, I gave affirmatives 24, making a total of 65 for negatives and 66 for affirmatives. So it is not a unanimous decision, it is a split decision that the affirmatives take the debate. Thank you.